When buying a home, it's not as simple as just taking into account your down payment and your mortgage payment. There's other costs associated when it comes to buying a home, and some of which a lot of people don't really take into account, which can either result in really tight cash flow for them, or even worse, they can't close on their mortgage. In this video, I'll be taking you through behind the scenes of what we do to pre approve clients and really just go through a laid out, customized budget outlining a $1 million purchase. And some of these costs might shock you, so it's best to stick around to the end of the video, especially if you plan on purchasing in the near future. All right, so walking you through the budget here, we have a $1 million purchase and 20% down. Now, we can go with a bunch of different scenarios, but just for today, we're going to use this just to keep it simple. And we're going to use a 5 year fix. Now, we have multiple different terms we can look at, 1 to 5 year to a 5 year variable. But again, we're just going to keep things simple and go through a 5 year fix. So a 30-year amortization means the length of the mortgage. That's going to bring down your payment as low as possible. If you wanted to do a shorter term, or sorry, shorter amortization, you can do that, but it's going to bring that payment higher. So when it comes to mortgage insurance, you're not paying anything on this because you're putting 20% down. For annual mortgage rate, we have a 5.24%. And for any of you that are about to drop some comments saying that you've seen lower, for sure, we're using the average here. There's definitely some lower rates out there, and there's also some higher. So we're going right down the middle at 5.24. And that's also at the time of recording. Fixed rates fluctuate literally on a day-to-day basis. So there you have it. We're going to go with 524. If you are a first-time home buyer, you are going to get a rebate on the land transfer tax. So as you can see down here, if we go to land transfer tax, you have $12,475. So that's part of your closing costs that we're about to walk you through. But if we're going to go with that and you are a first-time home buyer, we already have that rebated in here. You can get rebated up to $4,000 on the land transfer tax. So if I clicked none, you would see that jump up to 16,000. So assuming you're a first time home buyer, we're going to use that. But if you aren't, you're going to be paying that extra 4,000 on the land transfer tax. Property taxes, we don't know what property we're looking at. So I'm going to go with an average of 5,500. There's some municipalities that are in the higher range for the 1 mil purchase. But again, I'm going with the averages here. For property location, we're going to go with an Ontario property. All of these numbers will make sense for any province. The only thing that will change here is the land transfer tax. So now we're going to go through the mortgage breakdown. We have a 20% down payment, a 1 mil purchase. So your down payment is 200,000. Then we have your mortgage amount of 800,000. So now we're going to walk through the closing costs, which a lot of people don't really take into account when it comes to their budgeting, especially when they go to banks. Unfortunately, banks don't really take into consideration these costs that I'm about to walk you through. So if you pay attention to anything in this video, these numbers here are crucial. So we have your down payment of 200,000, your legal fees. Now, this is going to depend on what lawyer you use, but we're using the average of 1,700. Tax on the legal fees 221, appraisal fee 400. So this is a category where you can actually save some money depending on the appraiser and also the lender you go with. So to give you an example, if you're using lender A, they might require a full appraisal, whereas lender B, they might have an auto appraisal system on the back end, which will save you some money and time. And typically it will be in and around $100, and a full appraisal will run you around $400. So we're going to go on the higher end of 400. Then we have your land transfer tax. And this number right here is something a lot of people don't even really know about or understand. And that's the adjustments on closing with your lawyer. So what this number is, it can vary anywhere between zero, higher than 1,000. 1,000 is on the higher side, so we're going with 1,000. And what this is if you buy an existing property, then chances are that current property owner has prepaid their property taxes. So if they've prepaid those property taxes, you're just picking up the tab essentially. So that's what that is. We're going to go on the higher side. So we have your total closing costs at 215,796. So a lot of people mistake just taking into account their down payment, which would only be 200,000. But here you have another 16,000, and that's if you are a first-time home buyer and have that $4,000 rebated on the land transfer tax. So this can be closer to 20,000 if you aren't a first-time home buyer. So that's missing expenses number one. And number two, I'm going to walk through the actual household budget breakdown. So we have your monthly mortgage payment at 4,384. We have your hot water rental. So this can actually be $0, but if you are purchasing a home, there's a good chance that you are going to have a hot water rental, and that typically runs around $55. So I'm going to include that in there as well. And for utilities, this is ballpark here. This can range, but I'm just going to factor in $100 for each utility, which will be $300 a month. And monthly property taxes based off of the 5,500 up above is 458 a month. And then you have your home insurance at 115. Again, that's approximate, but just for the sake of this budget and rough numbers, we're going to use that. So, assuming we're paying all of these items here at the bottom, we have $5,000.83. So, other than the closing costs and the other monthly expenses like the utilities and home insurance, those are all things that a lot of people discount and forget about. The other major expense that I think you should buffer for is furniture costs. So it sounds obvious. You obviously have to furnish your new property, but a lot of people actually tend to forget about this and they're really just worried about getting to the highest purchase price as possible, which I understand, but at the same time, you do need to furnish your new place. So please set aside some money. Don't use all of your money for your down payment and closing costs. You have to have enough buffer room for, let's say, a couch, sofa, TV, you name it, the list goes on. So I'm curious, did you expect a lower or a higher payment on the 1 mil purchase? Comment down below. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are.